Good evening. It's November 17th. The time is now 6:33 p.m. This is a Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. Let's start off with introductions. I'll start it in the room, and then we'll go online. So, Chris
Vallon, trustee, parent of two.
David Warner, board member, Finance and Facilities Committee chair. Elizabeth
Sindona, assistant to Dennis Police.
Steve
Morton, PTA Vice President of Woodlands.
Dennis Pugliese, Director of Facilities.
Lisa Raymond, assistant superintendent for business.
Zachary Baker, BOCES, tax support.
Thank you. Now online. Let's see who. Michael.
Hi, I'm Mike Messina with BBS Architects.
Fred
Seba, also BBS Architects.
Megan.
Megan Hack, a child in kindergarten and a child in second grade.
Great. Gabriella.
Sorry, I'm just getting home. Gabriella Barahona, Highview PTA president, mom of 3 boys, one at Highview, one at LFJ, and a 3-year-old.
Katie.
Hi, Katie McGee, a parent of an 8th grader at Woodlands.
Julie.
Good evening, Julia Long. I'm a board trustee and parent of a 6th grader at RJ Bailey.
Jessica.
Good evening, Jessica Muldoon, parent of a Highview student and ECP student and Highview vice president.
And everything's moving around and people are getting promoted as they speak. So now, is there anyone I've missed?
Yep. Faisal.
Hello, Faisal Siddiqui, father of 2 boys, hopefully 1 in ECP in a year, and a 1st grader. Over.
Great. Anybody else?
I think you got it.
I think that's it. Okay, very good. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is to take a look at the minutes of the previous meeting. And that's in the tab with the agenda document. That's the agenda. So now back out of that by 1 and then look for FinFac agenda. The second item down.
So you mean the draft minutes?
You want the minutes, right? The
Draft minutes?
The 4th one.
Oh, I'm sorry, draft minutes.
No,
Sorry.
keep going.
Draft
Next
down.
one down, that one. Nope, that one's right there.
Good. Okay. So we have the minutes of the last meeting, which was a little more crowded. So take a look at these minutes, especially if you were here, and let me know if there's anything that has is significantly off, needs to be changed, needs to be added.
Picky thing.
Yeah.
Dave's last name, I think it's Brijall, but anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. I've been told they can't hear me when I talk.
L-A-L-L.
Yes, it has 2 L's at the end.
Okay. Okay. And all right, David Warner, Dennis Pugliese, Chris Vallon, Carol Allen, James Wadick, Steve Morton, Fred Seba, Ashley Pineda, Jessica Muldoon, Zachary Baker, Katie McGee, Tracy Mears, Julia Long, Elizabeth Sindona, Sarah Lazari, Gabriella Barahona, Giovanni Mateus, Dave Rich, I see that. Megan Hack, Amy Huang, John Kane, and Kalyana Vadala, and Dr. Linda Iverson. Okay, so we're good for the names except for Bridge Law. Okay, so we adopted the minutes of the previous meeting, and then we heard a presentation from the energy performance on the energy performance contract by Kalyana Vadala and John Kane, and it became $20.3 million once they figured out what they could handle. And then it goes point by point in terms of what was on that first slide, in terms of the contents of the energy performance contract, what they'll do. And then we talked about what happens if interest rates go up and we can't make the project quite as big. We scale back the project, and we talked about the ins and outs of the carport and the battery energy storage system, and how far it was from the edge of the property line. And then we reached to the point at which we had a recommendation for the Finance and Facility Committee to move forward with an energy performance contract as presented by Con Edison Solutions, with a public approval vote slated for January of 2023, so that we get that extra 10% from the state. And we'll talk more about that tonight. And then we briefly reviewed finance topics, which were pretty much unchanged from the previous meeting. Then we went over the 5-year facilities plan. And so on the one hand, we had the capital facilities executive summary, and then we had some input for the district-wide 5-year plan, which has facilities as kind of a subset of it. And we made some suggestions as to what the metrics should be for that. And those got carried into a committee meeting for discussing what the metrics would be for all the goals. And we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. And then we went down the line on the status of the various projects. We talked about RJ Bailey Auditorium, the Greenburgh campus water lines. We were concerned about the topography report not having been received or even started. And I think we've made a little bit of progress on that since then, and we'll go over that in a little bit. And we talked about the phase 1 ventilation and high view roof project. There had been the cloud burst while the roof was in process of being changed, and some water got in, and then we got back to where we were watertight again, and then cleaned up the ceiling tiles and took care of all of that. We talked about the Woodlands Middle High School security vestibule and the mansion roof, that we had actually started parts of that project, and that is, we put up the scaffolding around the outside of the mansion and went to work on the masonry while the weather was still good. And then we're kind of like waiting on parts for the security vestibule, and that's still somewhat the case, and we'll go over that again tonight. We talked about the ECP main building, Leah Jackson and Highview, all the small things that were going on. We're still working on trying to get the openable windows for the Highview 3rd grade wing. We talked about all the other things we're doing at RJ Bailey and fixing up the boiler. There was a Legionella problem that we took care of, and everything is safe now, but we had to go through remediation and chlorine flush, and we're going to do that on a regular basis from now on, every couple of months, to keep things as they should be. We talked about the outdoor at Woodlands, the outdoor rodent bait station, so we can stop the critters before they get into the building, hopefully. We talked about needing the volleyball sleeve installation. We'll talk about that tonight. And then we briefly touched on the electric vehicle idea and having a pilot project for that. And then we left as a placeholder phase 2, which is the next thing that we go after and what our priorities are for phase 2 once we've gotten through the energy performance contract, meaning adjourned. Go ahead.
I move that we approve the minutes as amended.
Do I hear a second?
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes adopted. Okay, back to the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, so an update on the energy performance contract. Okay, so to review briefly, Con Edison Solutions had this proposal for $20.3 million. It includes LED lighting, direct digital controls for all HVAC systems, new condensing water heaters, software controls for computers, timer controls for window ACs, installation of bare piping, and improved building envelope weatherization. That's the stuff for all the schools. And then there are things for individual schools. So Leah Jackson gets a new natural gas line. Highview gets a natural gas line and new boilers, a rebuild of air handling units and rooftop solar panels, refrigeration compressors for freezers. RJ Bailey gets a rebuild of air handling units, replacement of steam traps. Woodlands gets the natural gas line. We used to have one a long time ago, and we're gonna have one again. A replacement of outside air intakes and rooftop units, installation of solar panels and a carport out by the football field, and a battery energy storage system. The project pays it for itself with energy savings, NYSERDA rebates, and other government aid. There is no additional cost to taxpayers. On 11/1/22, the Board of Education accepted committee recommendation to move forward with the Con Edison Solutions proposal and to hold a public vote in January to provide an additional 10% in state aid for the project. On 11/15, the board passed a resolution authorizing a public vote on the proposition. There's an attachment for that, and we can go look at that. Let's see, that's going to be EPC proposition agenda item. Yeah, click on that, and then start scrolling down until we see, right, we have this huge set of whereases, and then we get to notices hereby given, and there's the result. Okay.
On the proposition.
On the proposition, right there. There's the text of the proposition itself. That in order for the district to receive 10% of building aid from the state of New York, the Board of Education of the district is hereby authorized to implement energy efficiency improvements at all district buildings. And it tells you what those are. And then talks about the necessary demolition work and anything required in order to make that happen. And then part B is that the district be authorized to enter into one or more energy performance contracts and or installment purchase contracts in connection with such energy efficiency improvements. Such proposition shall appear on the ballots used for voting at said special district meeting in substantially the foregoing form. Okay, so that is the gist of what people are being asked to vote on. You go back to the agenda now, unless, does anybody have any questions on this before we do anything?
If no one on the call does. Someone had asked earlier, in part B, the district shall be authorized to enter into one or more EPCs and or installment purchase contracts. Can you just explain briefly what installment purchase contracts refers to?
That refers to the, we wouldn't bond, we would do a installment lease purchase agreement to fund the money. And then there would be yearly payments, and those payments would be offset by the savings and the NYSERDA rebates.
Okay.
And then what happens if there's not enough in savings and NYSERDA rebates?
If there's not enough in the savings from what Con Edison Solutions says that we will get, then Con Edison Solutions is responsible for that difference.
Meaning they
would pay us.
Yes. Okay.
Any other questions from the public on that?
And then I think that the other important thing is the third whereas clause, where it says any energy cost savings, rebates, grants on the improvements will result in no cost to the taxpayers.
Correct. Questions? Okay, so I think we're good. Okay, so the proposition authorizes 10% state aid for a maximum of $21 million. In the event the proposition fails or rising interest rates increase costs, the project will be scaled back as needed. There is no additional cost to taxpayers. The vote will be held on January 17th at Woodlands Gymnasium. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. That's January 17th. For voter registration, absentee ballot, and military ballot information, contact our district clerk, Christine DeFrancesco, at KDIFRANCESCO@greenburghcsd.org. That's KDIFRANCESCO, DeFrancesco, KDFrancesco, at greenburghcsd.org. Or you can call her at 914-761-6000, extension 3114. Publicity efforts will include both hard copy and online notification. A frequently asked questions topic will be included on the website. So that's what I have. Does anybody have any further questions? Megan, you have your hand up.
I know we're not responsible if the costs are higher than Con Ed Solutions estimated, but do we have to pay it out first and then they reimburse us if they are higher, or do they make the payment for us at that time?
You would actually pay the utility bills throughout the course of the year like you would every month. And then what happens at the end of the year is a measurement and verification report that gets produced. And that will track what you actually spent versus what their guaranteed savings were. So that's when the adjustment will be made. So they would cut a check at the end of the year.
So if in the situation where we ended up paying more than was predicted and our cash flow, like that would affect our cash flow, right? So where would we pay that extra funding from?
The extra funding would just come out of your normal operating budget. As far as your utility costs, they fluctuate up and down, usually a cushion in there, especially nowadays with rates being as crazy as they are. So the district would pay for it. It's usually a very small shortfall, if any, because obviously they don't want to pay.
Yeah.
So they make sure that their energy calculations are very conservative so that they're not going to have to pay. So if it's a shortfall, the only job I've ever seen in doing so many of these is I haven't seen a shortfall in energy savings. I did see a shortfall at one point in rebates, where the rebates were guaranteed and they weren't able to get quite as much rebate money as what they had guaranteed. So they had to write a check for the difference. That's the only time I've ever seen a shortfall on an EPC.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's not a question, but thanks, David, for putting the new district clerk's email up there. It's not on the website, last I checked. And the only place I could even find, it's Joya's still name, and that was under voter information. But so this is just an aside. I know tech isn't here, but the district clerk's information should be more prominent on the website.
Hi, good evening. Ms. McGee, can you clarify, excuse me, where you found that? Is that on the Board of Ed section part?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
But you go to Board of Ed section, and then I just, I looked all over, and then the only time I ever found the district clerk's email and phone number was when you clicked on voter information and at the bottom of it. And I didn't know how to spell the new clerk's name, so.
Info link.
Yeah.
So to tag on that, thank you for that, Ms. McGee. To tag on that, on the important message that flashes up on our website now, should we put our district clerk's email address at the bottom when it's talking about the voting will be conducted on X date, just as a point of contact?
So people can contact.
I don't know.
That makes sense, yeah.
By the way, for anybody who doesn't know, this is Tracy. There's our board president.
I snuck in. That's a good
I can
suggestion.
tell you that we went over the EPC newsletter today, and it will be the banner at the top, or that blue bar. We're moving COVID to About Us and putting the EPC there.
Okay.
And then we're also going to put it in the news feed.
Okay.
That thing that scrolls.
Yes.
down
That's
the
good,
whole
yeah.
news feed is going to be put there also.
Yeah.
But I'll make sure that her information gets at the end also.
But I
It's already in the newsfeed. Sorry.
Okay.
But I did hear Ms. McGee talk about having to look for a contact, and it should probably be an easier way to get the district clerks.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have to go into
Right.
the
I'll talk to
website like
Mr.
that.
I'll talk to Mr. Lees.
Carol Allen?
I just heard you say that there was a newsletter that was being prepared. I'd like to point out that when we are looking at these documents pertaining to the contract, there are a lot of technical terms that most people are not going to understand. So anything that we put out for the public, we need to make sure that it is written in simple English so that they can understand exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they said the standard is like a third grade level too, actually.
Okay.
Right?
It's not so much the level, but it's the names, the acronyms, the technical
Acronyms.
Yeah.
Okay.
You either have to have a glossary,
Right.
or you write everything out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I would be happy to take a look at whatever you're going to send out to give you my opinion as to what needs to be modified.
Okay, thank you.
To edit. Is there a document we can send her?
Yeah, it was being, well, I don't want to say it was being finalized, but I can get it. I definitely.
Okay,
Is this a separate document from the?
Well, there's gonna be
Fall
just a
newsletter?
little blurb in the
Fall
fall newsletter, but no, this is an actual
Separate
newsletter that's
newsletter.
just
Okay.
just
EPC.
this. Okay, good, okay,
But
Thank you.
I will get that.
okay. And are there any other questions on this very important topic? Okay, so now, moving on, finance, Lisa Raymond, Assistant Superintendent for Business. All right, so you should start out with the American Rescue Plan update, or is it any change?
There is no change, there is no update on the American Rescue Plan. We're still getting the same allotted amount of money, and you'll see in my spreadsheet when we bring that up that I do identify the American Rescue Plan, and will be touching base with Jim and Fred as to how to start the part for the ventilation, because I know it will take to get into through SED and facilities planning. So just at least start the legwork on that.
Okay,
And they are addressing the learning loss through different programs that we're doing.
good, so so that's 1.6 million that we designated for ventilation.
Correct.
Okay, audit committee update. Wait, were there any questions on that? Okay, good. Audit committee update. Chris, you wanna go over that?
Basically, the independent auditor came and reported to the board on the 15th. I should state first that Gabriella, who's on this committee, and Michael K. Owens are public members of the audit committee, and they've been approved by the board. The independent auditor was here. That has now been submitted to NICEN by Ms. Raymond. And the board will review, the audit committee is meeting on the 28th. It's open to the public. It's in person only. We will be reviewing the corrective action plan for the independent audit, as well as a final review of the corrective action plan for the internal audit, and probably making a recommendation to the board to accept those at the December 6th meeting. I don't know what else you wrote here, but that's what's happening.
And that's based upon your report. So we're good. Any questions on that? Okay, facilities fund update. Lisa?
You want to bring up those spreadsheets?
Sure.
You want to do that?
So we have those other two tabs.
Right, so-
Tab, you want the project update or the FinTech committee capital?
They're not in this.
It's up, the tabs up at
At
the top.
tabs at the top, do that one right there first. Okay, so if you remember, I had done a spreadsheet that was off of the building condition survey. And then once BBS updated the 5-year facility plan, what I did was I took the same spreadsheet and several tabs at the bottom. So Zach, if you just clicked on the first one that says BCS LFJ, okay. This will show you everything that is in the 5-year plan that comes right off of the building condition survey. And if, I don't know if you want to make it, if we made it smaller, you wouldn't be able to read it, but there are columns that go out. And at the bottom, you'll see that everything is totaled. And all of these spreadsheets that say BCS, LF Jackson, Highview, RG Bailey, all of those tie into, Zach, if you go back to that summary page. They all tie back into this summary page, okay?
Ms. Raymond, can you share that with the board?
Oh, of course.
I would love to look at this.
Sure,
I think some
of
of our
course.
questions could probably.
Definitely.
The answer.
Yes, definitely, yeah, definitely.
And a lot of the
And
agenda could
let
be
me-
funneled back.
I'm
into
just gonna
this.
stand up real
Yeah.
quick. So if you,
Check it before.
if you just see here, like, this is gonna say everything that is pertaining to down
Yeah.
here, except for these first 3. I included these after speaking with Trustee Warner and Trustee Valen that, so here's the estimated costs that I took from BBS. Future things that were not identified as under the EPC, phase 1, the vestibule mansion roof, phase 2, and then Zach, can you go that way? And then American Rescue Plan, and that's the actual work to date.
Yeah.
So you guys could see that. So out of all of this, We've done $439,000 worth of work, but this obviously from here down will change fast as the projects start, and then the actual work will, eventually all out.
And Ms. Raymond, are you updating that as it happens?
I
or
do.
you
This is in live time.
Yeah.
This is on a Google Doc that Trustee Warner sees it also, and I will. I'll share it. I can share it with you guys.
We don't
You
need
can see it.
editing or anything, just.
No, that you can see it. And every time I update it, I can send it to you.
Oh,
So
no.
that you guys can see it. But again, these tabs down here
That's awesome.
all tie into this.
Yeah.
So, it's just a formula. I take a formula from here and plug it in here, and it automatically does it itself. Okay.
I was contacted this weekend, for example, about the pension. So something like that, I'd be able to see in
Yes,
real
you
time.
would be able to see
what
it, exactly.
is being
How much
done.
has been expended?
That's right.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
So you broke, just to clarify some things on you. Brain? Okay. So you've broken out like the vestibule and the mansion roof separately because they weren't included specifically on the building
Correct.
position survey.
Correct.
And there were other, when you look at the work done, it seems like very little, but that's because in the meantime, we've been working on other things.
Exactly.
That are not part of the BCA.
Exactly. I didn't
The
put
fire
on, I
hydrants?
didn't put on there the 2 gyms that were done. I don't have the fire hydrants on there
Right.
yet. I
So
could.
that's gotta be done.
Yeah, I could even, this spreadsheet could be.
This is a great, it's a fantastic beginning.
Yeah.
So-
Thank you, thank
And
you.
then,
So, and I have to, Mr. Puglisi and I have been working on this,
Yeah.
endlessly, because I wanted the layman to be able to pick this up and be able to read it, as opposed to somebody who works with numbers all the time.
wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, can we,
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I'm
part-time
jumping
job.
ahead, because I haven't, it's been a crazy day. But I'm seeing here, we've talked about this offline, the ventilation work to be determined from ARP
Mhm.
is additional ventilation work to that encompassed in the EPC, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's in addition to it, yep.
And if PTP.
So Zach, can you go up to that one that
smaller,
says
then
FinFac?
You take up the slack with that.
Okay, so then what I wanted to do was I wanted to show you
That's
guys
the money that's been spent.
just from, just from what we have, okay? And I concentrated on phase 1 mansion roof, fire hydrants and vestibule.
Yeah.
Here's what the budget was, or
Okay.
money that we have. Here's where the bids came in.
Okay.
I have to go over this architect's fees with Fred and Jim. I just took it off of their RFP. I didn't have a chance to, we didn't have a chance to connect today.
Okay.
But let's just say these numbers were okay. So then this is what the total cost would be. And then I started subtracting things out that we've already paid.
Here's a stupid question. How much do we want to publicize what we budget versus before bids come in?
Well,
Just as far as.
well, the bids, these
Yeah,
bids have
different
already
lines.
came in and you have to remember
No, I
too.
know, but the other stuff.
Oh, well, that's true too. Yeah,
So I
that's
just
up to
want
you
to be
guys.
careful.
Can you go down? Or
Broadcast.
And then it
instead of
just,
being in the room.
I'm just gonna show you, then I show you what the costs to date are, what I say the balance is, and then I put this together from the bids when they came in, so that we could tie into the number that the board has approved. Okay, and I broke it down. I just broke it down like this for myself, just so I could be able to total it, but I left it down here so that you could see that it ties up into another number.
Okay.
Pretty good.
This is great. This is going to be a good dashboard for our strategic plan.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Okay, so then I think that kind of takes care of a lot of the bullet items that I have sitting here in this section, right?
Well,
Let's think.
I want to follow up on that part, the ARP money. Is that further down, David?
Do
Sorry.
you have it in here again, or?
I've got, well, no, American Rescue Plan is up at the top.
Oh, she's saying it right there.
Right, the $1.6 million in ARP money. All right, what's your?
So the question that we had was when it says that money needs to be used by September 2024, does it need to be used and paid out or allocated and things
Well,
could be sitting with
that-
us for approval? Like
That's a very good question, which Fred, do you know that, so if we start working together and get the money, the 1.625 million that they've allocated for ventilation and stuff, if you guys start working on it and it gets to facilities planning, it's not the district's fault if it hangs out at facilities planning for X number of months. Would we be grandfathered in, do you know, with the ARP money? If it wasn't done by the 2024 date?
NYSAD hangs onto the plan for eons.
Right.
Do they say, sorry, the time clock is expired?
I'm not really sure, to tell you the truth. I guess you could request an extension on that if for some reason facilities planning took an inordinate amount of time in order to approve these. That's the only thing. I'm not sure, though. I mean, obviously, we haven't gotten to that point yet, so none of our clients have.
Okay, let's call that the fail-safe plan, but let's find, Ms. Raymond's gonna find out.
I'll see if I can call somebody at the state or at state aid planning or something. Maybe they know more that they can help us with. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
There are ways to get through the state a little bit faster too, like doing a third-party review.
Right.
Which costs a little bit of money, but it gets you through the state faster and it gets you through project manager approval faster as well. So that might be something that we will look at with you when the time comes.
Okay. My concern is if we're waiting to see what actually ends up getting done in the EPC, and then we start the clock on the rest of the ventilation stuff for this money, that clock's gonna run out.
Yeah.
So maybe we could talk about what we want to do with this ARP money, and then that could come off if it had to, the EPC.
Or there might, or I believe,
Or someone else.
without looking in depth,
You know that
there might be a lot
you
more
know that
ventilation stuff that's not in the EPC that could.
True.
be-
That's correct. So under ideal circumstances, I would air condition an auditorium with it if I could, but we know that we have it lined up in terms of like the time it would take for payback, right?
Right.
So the air handling units on the roof of the Woodlands, right, are right at the top of what comes off. So if you wanted to go for something in particular that you think is most likely to get kicked off the list,
Yeah.
you can use that.
But I want to review the sheet to see if is there any ventilation item not included in the EPC that could also have this money?
Right.
So.
Well, no matter what we do.
All
it's
true.
just
Look at that
the
spreadsheet
radar,
and start
so
looking
that
at
just
it
in
closely.
case.
It's all true.
Okay.
All right, so any further questions on that? All right, then I should mention to you, skipping down here to, so the other things in the bulleted items are similar to what they were last time. I think of our excess fund balance in 2021, and that was dedicated to the mansion roof, I believe 113 for the work that they've already done. The last white bullet on the top of the next page, the 2021-22 fund balance available for facilities projects, I have listed as 1.4 million, correct?
Is that right?
Yeah, it's 1,404,000 that we put into the capital reserve.
And the last piece of good news we're allowed to share now is that New York State Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins met with Dr. Iverson and Lisa Raymond and has indicated that her office can make at least $500,000 available for additional facilities projects, matching the donation from Assemblyman Abenanti. We submitted a list of possible projects and we're awaiting a response. So the funding is coming in, so I'm very happy. And the project spreadsheets we just looked at. So that's, Katie.
She went thumbs up.
Thumbs up, okay.
Is there any update on that? Do you know, like, did we send them a list?
Yes, we did. The list has been sent. Dr. Iverson did compile the list and has been sent to Senator Stewart-Cousins.
So I just want to, now that elections, I'm going to be blunt, now that election season is over, I want to make sure we're following up on that and then it doesn't drop off everyone's radar.
Ah, that is true. Okay. That is true.
Okay. Very good. All right, then moving on, 5 years facility plan. All right, BBS has provided the draft 5-year capital facilities plan executive summary. We looked at that in a previous meeting. The district strategic plan goals that we're going to have, come back around and have an effect on what our charges are for our committees, and also have an effect on what our 5-year facilities plan is. That's moving forward. So Ed McCormick I believe presented on September 20th. What the result of the subcommittees from phase 3 of the strategic planning process. And then we moved on to phase 4. So a group of 3 board members and 3 administrators were assigned to develop metrics for for all the goals based on the phase 3 work. And we met on 11/14. And there were a few suggestions from the last meeting that I think are being incorporated into the portion of the strategic plan that has to do with facilities. The district-wide strategic plan infrastructure goal has been revised. So that's the top level goal. There are 5 different areas, and one of them is ours. And it says, we commit to update, repair, replace district facilities and technology to ensure student safety and health and to meet the requirements for the future classroom. So we got that in. Yearly objectives will be based on project completion milestones. Selection criteria for the projects are where we put in all the suggestions that we looked at the last meeting. They'll include maintaining buildings in satisfactory condition per the building conditions survey, the percent of high priority BCS items addressed, the security audit recommendations. We have a security auditor coming in to, I'm not quite sure where we are at on that, but we had some staff training, and that person is also doing the security audit. So
they're being recommended to the board to do this.
Correct. And then there will be a report from that, and then that will get folded in, and probably some proportion of that will end up as something for facilities. Technology plan objectives and classroom of the future requirements based on student success and climate and culture criteria. We've talked in this committee and in the community engagement committee about not getting stuck in our silos. And you have to realize that you want to look at what your educational objectives are and let that tell you what your buildings need to look like. And so that's the student success metrics. So that's got to be folded in as well. So there's more coming than just in the BCS, but we've got to talk to Macaluso and the committee that went with that in order to figure out what we want to do. And also, if you want to improve student morale, that's a consideration too. Draft strategic plan will be provided to the Board of Education on or about 11/23/22. We hope to adopt a strategic plan and yearly goals in December, which will affect committee charges and plans for all committees, including finance and facilities. And that's what I have on that. Are there any questions about that? Okay, so we'll wait that draft. Woodlands tennis court aid. Yes, Gabriela Barahona sent a letter to the U.S. Tennis Association requesting aid for resurfacing our tennis courts. See attachments and received a response. We want to look at let's see. We have the attachments.
While you look for the attachments, I just want to say that sometimes, despite the intense work of our district employees and trustees.
We don't have the attachments.
Sometimes a parent or community member reaching out to contacts has more impact. I know.
Yes.
Trustee Valen, myself, Mr. Morton, before we were sitting at this table many moons ago, we advocated with some senators and assemblymen, and we didn't get exactly what we wanted, but going out there advocating grassroots really does help, I think. So I'm really happy to hear that she did that.
So the meeting next Monday, we're putting a group of people together to talk about that. Dennis Pugliese. We need, you remember the estimates that we did a year or two ago on what it would take to resurface, redo the tennis courts? And BPS, you have that, correct?
Yes, we'll update the estimates. We have them originally in the BCS, but we'll take another look at them. We'll send somebody over there to take another look at the courts, make sure they haven't deteriorated any further, and we'll revise the number if necessary.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Siva, I remember in a meeting hearing a parent ask about different types of materials for covering. Do you guys remember that? I don't remember who the person was. I'm sorry. And I don't remember what the material was because I don't know materials. But
yeah, no, we had presented a alternative for using a synthetic grass
Yeah,
the tennis court because it's,
no, that wasn't it.
the material itself is more flexible and not as susceptible to cracking over time. It's been used in a lot of projects, municipalities, private residences, condominiums and those sort of things. It is a surface that plays just like an asphalt court. So there is other materials out there that are available. Aside from just regular asphalt. So you really only have three alternatives. You have clay. You have clay, traditional asphalt, and a synthetic grass.
You want to look at something that the kids actually compete on, which is most likely asphalt.
And we need to try and get our tennis coaches in here.
Yeah, did you hear back about the tennis coaches?
I sent a letter, I sent a request to the principal and the last time I looked, I haven't had a response from him yet. It's the meetings at 10 a.m. So if somebody doesn't have a period or they can find a way out of it, right?
Yeah.
Then we can pull at least one of the tennis coaches in.
Yeah, I feel like there was I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I feel like there was a parent, and I don't mean that it has to be a viable option, but I feel like someone mentioned a different option. But I did hear Trustee Valen just say that the kids practice or compete on certain, did you say clay?
No.
No.
We should,
What'd
I
you say,
said, we should consult with the athletic director to see what they compete on. I'm assuming it's mostly asphalt.
Asphalt, okay.
Because you don't want to put in
From my
clay
experience, yeah.
if they're never playing on clay.
Right, no, I agree. What did
And
you
then
say?
if you expanded the tennis courts later and could actually have meets here in addition to practicing here, which is another level and requires more funding, then you would probably want.
Correct. And what did you say?
Most of the courts are of blacktop pavement.
Asphalt.
Asphalt.
Okay.
And there's different, different levels of asphalt, like you would see at the Billie Jean King Tennis Center. It's asphalt with a rubber surface put over it. So that just adds a whole other layer, but you're probably just looking at a basic asphalt court.
Okay, I say this every meeting. I apologize. People probably hate me saying this, but please don't chat because we're not looking at the chat. We're listening, we're reading. And anyone watching on YouTube can't really participate in the chat. So if you do have something to contribute, please shout out, raise your hand, either way. Mr. Warner, I don't know if you have a suggestion or unless you want to have someone
read the chat.
You want to monitor the chat?
I
Obviously, you're monitoring the chat.
No, I'm not. So I don't know how you want to handle it, but.
Sorry, that was me. I was just asking if hard true was another kind of type of
This looks
surface.
great. I agree, very transparent, awesome.
She's asking the question now.
She's
Go
saying
ahead.
it.
Go ahead.
I was just saying a hard true is like a type of tennis court surface I've heard of before that hasn't been mentioned. So I didn't know if that was the one Tracy was looking for.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it could be, that could be what it was. I don't remember the term, but hard true. I don't know what that is or if that's something that kids do play on when they compete. So maybe I see Mr. Wade was there and he's gone. So I'll write that down. Thank you, Ms. Hack. Mr. Wade, do you know of hard true material as well? You're muted.
I'm not familiar with that product. Are you familiar with that product, Jim? That might be a trade name.
Hi, true. Yeah, it's probably a manufacturer of a particular brand of asphalt. There's so many different court manufacturers out there. I'm assuming, you can get some from Land Tech. That's probably, they get from a specific tennis court asphalt batching plant, and then High True, maybe, another installer that specializes in just tennis court construction. So they may have their own trade name on their product.
Okay. Steve?
I just want to add in something that we're looking toward the future. The biggest thing right now, probably in the United States and the world, is also adding pickleball to it. And the USTA had 25,000 tennis courts and pickleball court combinations. It is the hottest thing right now. It'll probably help us with the public since it's a big thing right now. And it,
It is very popular.
it is the most popular thing right now in the United States. And the USTA is actually promoting having hybrid tennis courts so that you could do pickleball, because there will be tournaments and it's probably going to go to the Olympics. So you heard it here.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see how far we want to go with it.
It's something to
And
bring
the
up.
community could use the tennis courts too, or the pickleball
or the
courts, I
pickleball,
guess.
Very popular.
Never heard of it, good to know.
Okay, I'm recalling going out on the tennis court with my racquetball racket and Elon's pass, but, okay, so are there any questions on this? This is all good news. We'll hear more, we'll know more after Monday. Okay, moving on then, Metropolis Country Club project. This is kind of this is a very serious topic. We were informed in mid-October of an upcoming site visit related to a town board public hearing on Metropolis Country Club's application for an amended site plan, a tree removal permit related to construction of a maintenance facility in the eastern portion of the golf course. This happened and we didn't get fully informed or didn't have a full amount of information to put it on the agenda for the last Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. So we kind of had to react, in between meetings here. The storage facility is located in the middle of the east side of the golf course. Fertilizer and pesticide storage will be 180 feet north of the Juniper Hill Road spur. That is the piece of Juniper Hill Road that sticks out a little further than the rest of it. I think we should at this point bring up another file. Let's see if we have this one.
Somewhere on there.
Yeah, fact one. Okay, so you're looking at, on the right-hand side is Fair Street, which if you were coming from Terrytown Road direction, you go up that and then make a quick left turn and go up Juniper Hill, and that would eventually lead you to Lee F. Jackson. If you were to go along Fair Street along that right-hand side.
Is it flipped?
No, it's not flipped. North is at the top.
Jackson is off the, it's not.
Jackson is not on the chart. If you were to go down Fair Street to the bottom of the screen, just at the bottom of the screen is the First Seventh-day Adventist Church. Okay.
Bottom of the screen.
Right, so then you're looking at,
I'm so turned around.
yeah, so you, Dr. Iverson?
If you go up here,
Picture on side, it sounds like jumped in the car.
if you go up here, this is Juniper Hill Road towards Jackson.
Oh.
Here's the church right here. It's all off the
Oh,
diagram.
so that's making the dirt road seem right.
Yes, that's the dirt road.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Got it.
so that's the dirt road.
Got it.
Right, so this is the back nine. This is a set of golf holes. You can see their fairways and places where the greens are. And
Thank you.
I was gonna, thank you, trustee.
And right in the middle there, I guess they have put up an assisted living facility elsewhere on their property, and so they needed to move their storage facility stuff to a new place. And that big set of rectangles in the middle is where the two storage buildings will be. So in order to make that work, they do a bunch of sculpting. You can see it's not on the edge of their property, it's kind of well within their property. It's about 180 feet from where Juniper Hill spur there, that dirt road there on the bottom is. If you went straight north, it'd be about 180 feet. So it's a good distance. They're doing things to make sure that that any pesticide or the stuff that they've been spraying on their golf course for the past half century is well contained. And to get to that new storage facility, they're going to add a driveway off of the dirt road, and they're going to pave the dirt road, but not widen it except at the corner in order for large trucks to be able to make the turn.
So,
Go ahead.
so that says Juniper Hill Road, but
Yes.
wasn't there some commentary on whether or not that's officially?
A real road.
Right.
Yes,
Oh,
so,
okay.
so there was a hearing on this and what the impacts of this would be, and they were amending their site plan, and then people started to talk about that, and then they decided to have a little site visit to discuss things, and we ended up I believe you had one person come and talk to you about us getting involved in that.
Mhm.
And I had another person talking to me from
Okay.
the opposite point of view,
Oh,
getting involved in
really?
that.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Is there any way to flip that?
yeah, there we go. Yeah,
And you and trustee Valen attended.
and we attended, so I'll return to my script here so you can, yes, so get, yeah, if you can flip that so that the
Well, we
printing
can,
is right.
well,
side
we
up.
can still see you're coming up Fair Street. There we go.
Turning.
Yeah, that's good, just leave it there, like that. And you see where it's cut out there, David, if you wanna.
Yeah, I think it would be less confusing to people if you could flip it right side up, because then it'll be oriented the same as the first thing. Do you have something that lets you flip?
You would like to open it, and- yeah.
Download it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then- There you go.
There you go.
Okay, so there's that turn, and there's how they have to make things wider. And then someone suggested that there should be a sidewalk, and then things began to get complicated. Okay, so I'm gonna go over this. Okay, we talked about. Okay. The storage facility is located in the middle of the east side of the golf course. Fertilizer and pesticide storage will be 180 feet north of Juniper Hill Road Spur. We talked about that. An access driveway will be added west of the church. Juniper Hill Road Spur will be paved by Metropolis to a point 20 feet west of the access driveway, and they will construct a sidewalk. The width of the road is uneven and will be widened at the intersection only so that large trucks can make the turn. 2 board members attended the site visit on 10/25. Major issues discussed included whether the Juniper Hill Road Spur is a public road or not, if it's just kind of that on paper.
Right.
Whether the sidewalk should be placed on the north or south side of the spur. So the sidewalk by default is on the north side there, right next to Metropolis Country Club, because they're the people doing the upgrade, and how best to ensure pedestrian safety. Okay, and then different people kind of weighed in at the site on how they felt about things. The town claims that the road is not officially a public road, so they're not maintaining it other than providing working fire hydrants. Other people are saying, no, you provided services, it should be a road. The town comes back and says, we have a process by which something that's a paper road becomes a real road that we maintain and are responsible for financially. And that process involves all the property owners getting together, fixing up the road, bringing it up to code. And then once it's as it should be, they file for it to become a public road, and then it gets turned over, and then the town starts taking care of it from that point. And the town says, that process never happened on this road. So therefore it is not a real road, and we're not responsible for taking care of it. Representatives of Juniper Hill Civic Association advocated that the sidewalk should be on the south side of the street. Metropolis Country Club representatives expressed a willingness to move the sidewalk to the south side of the street. If the spur is a driveway, the district would then need to maintain the sidewalk. Now, the point that was made by the Juniper Hill folks was the dreaded button hook crossing problem. So there is, if you look at Fair Street here, there's a sidewalk on the right side of Fair Street, on the east side of Fair Street. And students coming up and deciding that they want to go down this nice dirt road, 7th through 12th graders mostly, to get to Woodlands, will be tempted, if the sidewalk is where we put it, to go straight across Fair Street. And the route that's set up in this plan is for them to cross Juniper Hill Road instead, walk across the driveway in front of the church. You see those little stripes there? That's a crosswalk. They have a little piece of sidewalk that's in front of the church, and then they go across a second crosswalk, which puts them on the side of Metropolis Country Club, and then they walk down that sidewalk. So in other words, you'd be it's a button hook pattern, right? If you were like a football pattern, right? Here you go down, you cross 3 streets in order to get to this thing. Nobody's gonna button hook. Right, the 7th through 12th grade kids are probably going to either cross nicely at across Fair Street, or more likely they'll walk straight down the center of the street. Okay.
We have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Megan.
I think I'm still trying to get my map of the district and understanding where Woodlands is compared to LFJ.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Try again.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
that's
better.
Are students currently walking down this road, or they would only walk down it once it was an available option to them, because they currently walk through LFJ, right?
There are kids who walk through LFJ. There are kids who cut through the church. There are kids who come up Pear Street. There are kids who walk up and down this road to get to school. Currently.
Okay.
Well, while we were having the site visit, 3 or 4 kids walked by.
Oh,
Okay.
So yes, there's not heavy traffic, but there are kids walking through there. So it's a real concern.
Gotcha. So regardless, we should be putting a sidewalk in on this road. And it's just a
So it
matter
would be
of
a good
whether.
idea to put a sidewalk in on the road, yes. Okay, so that's the Juniper Hill position. Juniper Hill wants the sidewalk to be on the south side and go straight across.
Carol.
Yes,
Carol.
Carol.
I'd like to point out that when a sidewalk is put in, it has to be maintained, specifically snow removal in the winter.
Yes, correct. So if
That's
they
something
put it
that-
on our side and it's not a real street,
Even if it is a real street, the property owner has to take care of
Okay.
it.
so yes, that's correct. So then the question is there an overriding safety concern that would lead us to do that? So I'll get to that when I get to Sergeant Rex in here in a minute. Representatives of the Seventh-day Adventist Church advocated that the sidewalk should be on the north side of the street, except for a short length to move the crosswalk away from the intersection. The claim is that cars regularly park on the south side of the road for a weekday food distribution, and sidewalk on the south side would make the road too narrow, creating a hazard when cars try to turn around. So if you have signed out because you are currently signed into another device, great.
Does anyone really see for live?
People there? Okay.
That's us?
I don't know.
Is that Zach?
I'm gonna look. Did he leave?
That's him.
Or maybe he signed in from somewhere.
Zach, it just hit okay. Zach, it says we're signed out.
Yeah, but are we live still? What? It says live.
I see Fred blinking.
You can.
Yeah, so they're real people. Okay. So the problem is that the road gets narrow, and if you have 200 people arriving for a Thursday afternoon food distribution, then the parking lot for the church overflows and they park on Juniper Hill Road Spur. And they park on this side of Juniper Hill Road Spur. And if it's too narrow and you put a sidewalk in there on this side, it further constricts the road. So you'll have a bunch of people trying to turn around while in too small a road while kids are walking down the sidewalk in front of them. And that's kind of a mess too. And so that's not the greatest of solutions. So if you wanted to make it at least safe, you would probably have to declare it a road, and therefore it would have to be wider and widened all along the way. And you'd have to get agreement from the church and us and the country club to do all of that. Okay, and which brings us to and that's not an easy thing to get together and do. And that then brings us to Sergeant Rexon, a representative of the Greenburgh PD, recommended a study of the intersection to determine whether stop signs should be added for pedestrian safety. So heaven forbid, you can't really make everyone use a sidewalk, but cars do tend to obey stop signs. So you could possibly, and this is what Sergeant Rexon suggested at the site visit, put stop signs at the intersection. So if people are tempted then to walk across Fair Street instead of walking across Juniper Hill Road, but you've got a stop sign there, then the traffic will stop and the kids will be as safe going across one street as across the other. And stopping the traffic means even if they do some foolish jaywalking, that you still increase safety. So that appeared to be the lighted path. I believe the friendly folks from the Civic Association are skeptical as to whether the study will turn out to say that you can do that or you can't do it because of steep slopes. But I know of streets in my neighborhood that have equally steep slopes, and they put stop signs in, and some of them in Hillside Avenue, top and bottom. So I think the best thing to do is to go forward with the study. which is what we recommended. So the town, on 10/26, the town concluded the public hearing, leaving the record open for 7 days for written public input. On 11/1, the board discussed this issue in open session, drafted a letter recommending 1, the intersection of Fair Street and Juniper Hill Road be studied to determine whether stop signs should be installed there, and 2, a 3-foot sidewalk be considered as a way to maintain both road width and pedestrian safety. The hearing is closed, right? We got in during the period in which you can submit written comments by 1 day. The question is, do we wish to recommend any further action? I know there's a steep slopes permit coming in behind this thing, and the zoning board, the Civic Association has gone back and said, hey, another opportunity to say we should put the sidewalk on the other side. And so that discussion is ongoing, and I think the short-term result is going to be that they're going to make sure that the study of the intersection is real and has a definite outcome that works towards safety. The one thing I thought of that would make any sense would be could we have part of it declared a real street, and we'd have to go through all of the process of doing that, or we can sit and wait for the outcome of the study. What do people think?
That's a lot to digest.
That's a lot to digest. I was hoping Manny would be here. Manny, he came to the Board of Education meeting and signed up to speak, and then.
The Juniper Hill, to explain who he is.
Yeah. Manny Reese is the head of the Juniper Hill Civic Association. Carol.
I think we need more information. We need to know how many students are actually going up and down the street. We need to know if the sidewalk is on one side of the street or the other. Does that change responsibility for maintaining it?
Yes, it does. That part we know, whether it's a public street or a private street. If it's on the north side, then Metropolis Country Club takes care of it. If it's on the south side, that little piece is going to get taken care of by the church. And then after a very little while, you're over the property line to our property, and then we maintain it from that point on.
So why should we take on the expense of maintaining it if we can let Metropolis take care of it?
Agreed, unless it's safer. And the question is, if you put the stop signs in, then I think it's a wash. And if they don't put the stop signs in, then we've got to scratch our heads about it.
I think we need to see the students who are using the avenue.
So we need to observe the students.
All right, because you can put stop signs and sidewalks wherever you want, but the people are going to walk the way that's most natural for them to walk, regardless of whether the sidewalk is there or not. There's not going to be a lot of traffic going up and down that street, except for when the food distribution is being done by the church.
Correct.
Agreed. I think some of the people on this call probably know of a sidewalk that was put in recently near Hartsdale Village, and people still walk on that street, regardless of the fact that the sidewalk is there. Anyway.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, so the action to be taken is for us to somehow observe how many students go by.
Yeah, I'll say, I mentioned to Mr. Warner that I was going to go observe one morning, and I keep moving it on my calendar.
You're just gonna sit there and count kids?
I've done that for other projects.
But, yeah.
I sat there and counted kids.
I keep wanting to do something else.
Yes.
Well, is there a way? Wait, we don't just have the number of students. Well, I guess maybe some people could get driven in. All right, if you want to sit out there and count kids, let us know.
It might be, 3, in the winter, and 10 in the.
That's
we don't
true,
know.
yeah.
It's whatever we observe is going to be unscientific. So
it is, and also there might be.
But it
more
will be
kids
better
that
than a
walk
complete lack of data. Okay.
True, and there might be more kids that walk home than necessarily go in the morning. Because
And so
parents
on
can
and so
drop
forth.
them in the morning.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so we'll get back and we'll try to come back with some data on that. Okay, any other comments or questions on that topic? All right, so then RJ Bailey Auditorium. As you may recall, the asbestos cleanup was completed by us over the summer. Scoping meeting with the administration was completed. Seating, carpet, flooring that was selected. We're awaiting physical sample of chairs to finalize finished materials and color selection with school personnel. The project is to be submitted to NYSED by late December. And we put off the lighting and the sound system to a future project in order to get this thing moving.
Okay, an update with that
Go ahead.
is, the seating company dropped off some mock-ups, some seating that we have on site at RJ Bailey right now.
Good.
I just received, they didn't send the fabric with the seats at the time, but I brought the fabric samples over. They're in the principal's office now. And we're trying to coordinate a meeting between BBS, the principal, myself, Dr. Iverson, and the theater people to coordinate the design of the space.
Can I suggest you include a board member in that as well? I mean, I think, you know, being members of the community, hearing feedback from
We were also
parents.
gonna reach out, I think, Ms. Rossi was gonna reach out to the community members.
I think so, yeah.
She was, we had spoke about that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to show that level of, you know, input and respect for the people who live here and use those seats. So that's great. How did the fabric look to you?
Oh, there was a different swatches.
Oh,
There was,
great.
you know, so plenty to choose from.
Awesome.
So would you be willing to be the contact person if somebody wants to come and join the meeting?
Absolutely.
Could you give us your email address?
Yep.
Or Ms. Rossi, if she, I mean, I don't know how you want to filter that, if 20 people say they want to join.
I think maybe Ms. Rossi's.
Okay. It's DPUGLIESE at Greenburgh, GREENBURGH, CSD.org.
So if you're interested in participating in that selection process, let Dennis know.
Is somebody from, one of you two gonna go? Myself and Miss Along, is Julie still there? I don't know. I'm busy.
I'm here.
Julie, how you doing?
We were gonna set up a meeting first.
Yeah, so. Oh, is she?
Yeah,
I'm here. Yes, I am the RJ Bailey's my school this year, so I'd be happy to participate.
So
Great.
let her know when you're, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
We got our board member?
So does this end of December submitted to NYSED still look feasible, or is that, are we now running into holiday problems? Right? I guess it depends on the meeting date.
Yes.
We'll get the paperwork together and, we'll be, if it's the beginning of the year, up there, they kind of slow down during the holidays like everything. So we'll be wrapping up our documents, I think by the end of December, and then having it submitted probably around the first of the year.
Okay. Dennis, you take the agenda from here?
Where are we going to? The small projects?
No, we're up at status of other major facilities project. Greenburgh campus water lines and fire.
Okay, yes.
I mean, I can go over it if you want to.
Okay, I'll take over a little bit. Okay, the surveyors are on site now. They're actually starting to work.
Talked to the guy this morning.
Yeah.
Yes, they've been, they started on election day, actually. I'm told the work's gonna take a couple of weeks for their site work out here before they start to prepare the report, but they are, they're on site and they're working.
Good. And so expect project submission to NYSED in January of 2023.
You don't like that?
Yeah, that has to, I guess they give the report to the architects and.
They get the report by December, so 2 weeks from now,
That
you're
sounds
into
reasonable.
December, and then they're sitting there waiting for the details. They've got a template they're filling in.
That sounds
You
reasonable.
like it or you don't like it?
No,
It's good?
yeah, I think that's good.
The project's not done, it's just submitted to NYSED.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Then go ahead, phase one ventilation.
Ventilation approved, bid process is complete, Highway third wing replacement, that's continuing. They're doing well there. Metal fascia pieces have been ordered, the metal's not here yet. That should be here shortly. I was up on the roof today, they're making good progress. Couple weeks of good weather and a few weeks, depending on the weather, they lost a couple days up there. But they're doing well there. Gym hall, the lower hallway, in Highview was just started, this week. That project's just beginning the window infills.
Can you help me understand what the gym?
The gym,
The glass.
the glass,
You're not supposed to have glass on the second floor. The allows you to look through from the hallway down to the gym. Because something bad could happen to the window and you fall through.
Got it.
It's not safe.
Okay.
So it's against regulations, so they have
a
to.
lot of it is not fire rated
So what
glass,
are you gonna-
most of it.
Okay.
Is not what?
The glass wasn't fire rated.
So what are you gonna put there?
They're proposing two different courses of actions. Possibly doing a smaller section, maybe 10 or 20 windows of fireproof glass,
Okay.
fire resistant glass. We haven't got the number back from the contractor yet. Because the building administration there would like to be able to see into the gym space.
Yeah, I think that's special.
But they're planning on doing the infills with resistant fire rated board. It's just a matter that you might want to see down into the gym, keep the space more open concept. But to bring it up to code, the glass has to be replaced with either fire resistant board or fire resistant glass.
What is the second option,
Border
no-
glass.
without
Border
visibility?
Yes.
So the board is no visibility.
There is no visibility.
Glass
Solid,
is.
solid panels, correct.
We skipped over something and BBS, you may need to give us a little information on this. I got a memo saying, ECP work is now delayed until summer of 2023. Can you tell us about that?
You're muted, Jim.
You're muted.
Wait, I got it. That's basically due to the inability to take out any of those toilets to do any of the renovation work during the school year. We met with the principal and asked if we can, work on one toilet at a time and put up temporary partitions. And then the other two toilet facilities would be available. That wasn't a good option. There was
It's for the young
also the
children.
suggestion of using temporary toilets, like a or upscale toilet facility that would be parked outside the building that students could use during the day while the toilets were being worked on. But that wasn't a good option either. So there was really no other workaround other than to put the work off till the summertime when the students aren't using those spaces.
How long can I ask Mr. Waiting, how long does the work take to replace the toilets?
Is that a winter holiday thing?
That's what I'm asking.
No, this is like a 3 to 4 week period.
By the time the demolition,
Even if they were gonna have summer school there, we'd have to relocate it.
summer school. would
Because
No,
probably
I
have-
was
summer school
hoping,
would have
I
to
was
be
thinking
relocated.
like winter break,
Spring
those
break,
weeks.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not enough time.
No, okay. Okay, so that's where that is. Okay, then RJ Bailey.
Let's see, the unit ventilators have been ordered. I guess they're still waiting on the lead times for that. I was told that they should be in, but now the weather is changing and the general contractor's hesitant to cut into the side of the building when it's frigid out. We had some nice weather there and he had high hopes of, starting the project when the weather was in the 50s and 60s, but now he's not unable to do his lentils in the brickwork. So that's going to be put on hold until we have some warmer weather.
And does that stop the rest of the project or not?
That's not the full project, but that's the outside of the project. That's a lot of the work done. Let's see, we got the security vestibule, and I believe a lot of the materials have been approved and they're being fabricated. I was told the last check that about 12 weeks for fabrication on a lot of the vestibule materials. That was about a week ago, so we're a week or two into that.
Okay, so longer than we thought. Okay.
I'm sorry, did he do the vestibule?
1 week ago.
So, but it'll start in January at the earliest.
We were talking about
And temperature wise,
Are you talking about the vestibule?
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
talking about the vestibule, there were,
This is
materials,
complete.
most of the materials have been approved and they're
What?
starting fabrication.
Was. See that word was?
So as far as when can this work actually be done with temperatures and?
There was some talk about possibly enclosing the space, with outside of where they're gonna be working.
Mm-hmm.
It is a small area to just, pour the footings overnight and continue the work that way. So they were hopeful that they could still,
And you could pour the footings in at freezing temperatures in January, February?
yes,
I
you
don't
can,
know.
there's different cements you can use, and they were gonna heat the space temporarily also.
So now
That's what I was
they're
told.
pushing it to March or April?
Yeah, I don't know if that is changed, but
So you don't have the storefront materials, right?
we
So you
still
can't-
don't have the materials, and they were hoping for some warmer weather. If you get a couple warm days, that's what there was some discussion about that.
They were projected to begin around November, but now there's an 8 to 10 week delay. That means we're probably not starting until January the earliest. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Stop me if I'm wrong. Which means if we do start in January, whether it's cooperative, we should be finished by March. If that all works
What
out.
type of storefront materials?
It's like the storefront, they call that like with the windows, the side of the building that you're looking at, it's aluminum with the glass.
Just to keep the heat in for the workers?
Well, that would be the outside of the building.
Visibility.
Where the vestibule is
That's
done.
actually the vestibule, which
It'll
made
be
out of.
ultra tough glass, but.
So, okay, I guess this is gonna sound a little elementary, but there's not other work that can be done while, does that has to be
Well,
here
that's-
first?
You could, but then you wouldn't be done, and then it would
It's
sit
not
there
gonna
and
be
block
done,
the
but-
entrance. And you block the entrance off and you wouldn't be done with the work.
Yeah, the theory was they didn't want to start to just pour the footings 3 months ago while they were waiting for the materials to come in, and this way we.
I guess my concern is that we're gonna end up to next summer again, but I guess you guys know what
I
you're
don't think
doing
that'll
with
be the
that.
case.
I'm just wondering, can other stuff be done, and then when the storefront stuff comes in, it's like, that's the end, great, and it's done, when that stuff finally comes in, but it sounds like we're waiting for that stuff to come in to start.
I believe that they
Yes.
just wanted to try to do the whole project.
They're trying to get it all done at
Yeah.
once, so
Yeah,
you
you
don't
don't do 2 or
block
3
off
weeks.
the entrance
They
of the
want to
school.
work, they want to work on the project for 2 or 3 weeks rather than
Okay,
6 months.
and stretch it out, okay, all right. Well, when you say 6 months, that puts us into almost the summer again. which
Oh,
is
no,
what I was
they-
saying. But okay, all
We
right,
can do it over the top of
Listen.
the school flag.
got it,
Right.
okay.
Okay, all right, so smaller projects, go ahead.
So the ECP building, we replaced some, the security booth, glass was cracked. The glass company came out and replaced that. There was a section of fence. It was decrepit along the playground.
Sorry, I won't interrupt again, but the fence replacement along the playground, I have asked this before. I'd be interested to find out how much it would be to create some level of blocked visibility on that main road to the children playing. Not necessarily, I don't know if it would be a tall fence, I don't know if it'd be shrubbery, I don't know if it'd be some sort of.
Oh, I thought it would be like material that you put
Like
on
the slots that
But
you
some
put
way we
inside of
kind
the
of-
fencing.
No, like that material that you can put along a fence.
Like you have at Jackson, the
So you-
taller
Yeah,
fence.
kind of like a screening that
Yeah,
you
like a
see, like
screen,
around the
yeah.
tennis.
So you can't see, right.
I'm just
something
thinking
like
for safety, I think of, we've talked a million times about safety with this campus, it's an open campus. But, these are the smallest children and they do spend a lot of time playing outside and you can just, they're right there accessible, which concerns me.
We could do some screening on that, like a privacy screening.
Yeah, and I don't know that it has to be a fence, it could be some other.
They have like a
shrubbery
fiberglass
or
mesh or whatever.
anything, I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
okay, that's probably.
What would be the most affordable
The
and,
fence is lower than the fence at
Yes.
Jackson, so
Right, so
you're
it's not-
talking either about.
You can almost step over it.
yeah, it's a low fence.
Okay, Jackson, we've replaced some LED lighting under the canopy. We replaced some of the photo cells. And we've been doing some repairing of the stonework around the front of the building. There's constantly the brickworks pointing over there. Pieces are constantly falling off.
I'm gonna say something that's very annoying, but we have this beautiful new sidewalk in front paving area, and it struck me yesterday and today when I was over at Jackson that the only wheelchair accessible point is where the staff parks. I'm just surprised when we put in the new sidewalk, we didn't have a wheelchair accessible, but I know because the school buses, when they pull up, it's at school bus step level. Just thinking of like a parent or a public coming in.
Or even a child coming in from a car or.
Well, when they get off the vans, I think it's
Yeah.
at the right
So
level.
curb cuts
But-
at
I'm not saying it's required, I'm just surprised that there was no other.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because parents don't
when
park
they
over
did
there,
that.
they might not know it's wheelchair accessible over there,
Yeah.
but in that front part.
I'm thinking over by the flag.
It's a brand new sidewalk, I'm not advocating
Yeah,
ripping it
yeah,
up.
that would make sense over, have another
Yeah, it wasn't thought
point
of.
of access egress on the
That's a
other
good
side.
point.
Okay.
access,
Yeah.
LFJ. Flagpole.
I asked this before too. You weren't here, that's why I'm saying.
Okay.
But that dip coming out of Leah Jackson, I had to bring it up in several
Yeah.
meetings before they finally painted a yellow. I think I had to say, paint something down, because it goes boom, you go down, right? I don't notice it as much anymore, because I don't go
Yeah, there's
there
a drain
as
there
much.
that the town
But there's
maintains.
a, right, a drain there, but is there any way to, I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
I could reach out, I've had a conversation with the,
Thing, right? It's
Like,
like a-
well, even when I go really slow, my minivan hits the thing, so I don't know if anybody else has that experience, I see you nodding, but I don't know what you could do with that, or I'm not.
We have
you know.
Jackson parents on the
Oh, yeah?
meeting here.
Is your car dip?
We're talking about the speed dip going into Jackson as opposed to a speed bump. Is anyone, are they still on the call?
Anyone?
Gabriella.
Give me 1 second. I have the boys next to me running upstairs. I'm sorry, I missed a question. The speed, you said the speed.
The dip,
On the way out of Leah Jackson.
what's in and out.
By the gates?
Yeah, that dip where the drain is when you're coming right around the turn.
Yes.
Does it make you feel safe or does it annoy you and bottom out your shocks?
That's probably what messed up the shocks in the car, to be honest. I drive an SUV, so it could probably absorb it, but I've seen sedans that when it bounces, you hear some scraping.
I don't know what can be done. I mean, just.
I can inquire
I think
with the town.
that would be a summer.
But
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
definitely.
the other side of the argument, I think, is that sometimes when cars are pulling out, it does slow cars down from just taking off into that corner, because it is a blind turn. So from that perspective, you know, if that was the intent of it, then okay. But it is a little uncomfortable if that's what you're asking.
Is the signage obvious there? I don't remember. I know the
I
first
thought we
time
colored
the
it.
first time it was there, I was shocked.
There was no signage. They had to paint the
Yeah,
yellow. You
it's
don't
paint,
remember
there's a
me having
painted
to
like
paint-
a speed bump area.
And then the paint wears off the world.
A yellow stripe. That's all it is. I don't think there's a sign, actually.
No.
No,
They
there's
do
no
have a
speed.
sign.
So, possibly. Okay, Highview?
Okay, let's see, we've repatched some potholes on the roadway and by the bus drop off. There was some talk about the windows for the longest time, that don't meet the materials. The project needed to be rescoped with new materials.
BBS.
So before it was like, has BBS received the request? Now BBS has received the request and now they moved on to the vendor. You want to say, Fred, you want to, or Jen, you want to address that?
This is for the Highview windows?
Yeah.
Yeah, openable windows.
Curtain windows, they call it.
I know, yeah. We had received a proposal from a contractor that I guess Mike Falcone had gotten or requested. We looked at the windows that were being proposed and told them these are not commercial grade windows. They will not stand up to the wind loading requirements for a school structure. And when we rejected them, we never saw a new proposal for new windows.
What? Listen, Mr. Wadig and Seba, this has been a few years now.
But this is something you guys are providing to us. We're not providing it to you. Mike Falcone reached out to these contractors. We weren't asked to find the windows. We were asked to evaluate the windows that were being proposed.
So the reason why I'm sounding so concerned is because, and maybe correct me, keep me honest on this. Was this a safety? I feel like this came up as a safety
And
issue.
I thought that once we found out that what Mike's contractor, who was one of our contractors, wasn't, I thought that it was my understanding you guys were gonna put some kind of, like, we were gonna go out to bid, but we were waiting for specs from you guys so we could do that?
We were gonna, if there was a contractor that was gonna be doing the work, we would look at their specifications, and if it met the criteria, we would incorporate that into a set of documents that would be submitted to the state for a window replacement project.
Okay, so Mr. Wadig or Seba, what do you need from us then? Is there something you're needing from us now to?
So I think the way I understood it was that the district, Michael Falcone at the time, was trying to procure a contractor, that it wasn't going to go to the state, that you guys were just going to have these windows done because it was such a high priority. And
Right.
so he had a window contractor lined up. They sent the windows over to us. We reviewed them. They did not meet code. So we rejected them and told Michael, these windows are not going to work. They do not meet New York State codes or SCD code. And so he said, all right, I'll go back to the contractor and we'll get them to submit a different type of window. And then we never heard anything back.
I understand. So can you just really quickly, do you need something from Mr. Pugliese, who's here now?
We've not given them the project to do this. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing. We were doing it in-house, so.
I think.
All right, now it's too expensive, so now we need to do the more formalized project.
They've always
like a
said
project.
Right.
that it can't be, that it was super expensive because of the walls, the way they were constructed, et cetera. So
Typically, a project like this, we would be the lead on what needs to be done in terms of picking out a product, doing documents and submitting it to the state. Like Fred was saying, Mr. Seba was saying that if it wasn't going to be submitted and was just going to be done by a contractor, then, we would just be there to evaluate what was going to be installed.
So let's do the formal process now.
Yeah.
That's the recommendation of this committee. Gabriella.
I'd like to discuss something about it offline.
Oh, she's muted.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
So today I was at the school for the Parent Involvement Day, and the windows actually came up from the perspective of, and I apologize, I'm not familiar what the code is with schools and the requirements of windows, but one thing that came up is that the classrooms don't have, it was very warm in the school, which I'm not complaining, it's pretty cold out, but with winter really, coming in quickly and illnesses and whatnot, the concern was having fresh air circulation. So an option to crack a window open is currently in the classroom I was in, that's not an option. So I don't know if that's something that could be, has been incorporated, and maybe it has in the new windows, but again, I don't know what the code is, but I just wanted to bring it to everyone's
That was the
attention.
intention. The whole intention was to have open windows in each classroom.
But hopefully too, the ventilation is going at the same time as the heat.
Correct.
Hopefully.
Correct. So we're legal, but the temptation was always to open the doors on those classrooms, and then you have security issues. Whereas if you open a window, you have
right
security issues. Okay. Okay.
All right.
So
yes,
recommendation.
Well, I didn't agree with that,
But,
but
I mean, let's say this too, though, that all the windows in most of the buildings need to be replaced for
Pretty much every
reason.
building.
Phase 2, part of the shell.
is there a reason why the quicker option won't work with the right vendor?
With the right vendor, it's, if it's over a certain amount, it would have to go out to bid.
You have to go out to bid anyway.
Yep. The last number came in at 57,000. That was a few years ago, and those were for windows that weren't even up to code. So I would imagine that the cost is going to be
triple,
2 to 3 times more than that.
So
At least double, I would imagine.
so why don't you talk to more people?
So Was it
Well,
more people? Was
and
it-
I'm gonna say that again, if we're about to be not tonight, but if we're about to be discussing phase two and what should go in phase two, and the idea is the shell of all the buildings,
That is included.
I'm just saying that could be included in phase two.
You
But that
understand,
would take
everything
years from now.
takes longer than you think it
Right.
will.
I know.
And the bigger the project, the longer it takes.
Yeah, but how are we no longer prioritizing this? That's the part that seems, you guys are.
I think that's why it has to,
That's
as
why it
much as
needs
it
to
makes
go.
sense to put it in a phase two, I think that this has to be a separate, small,
Thing,
small
right,
Right, small project.
to get those three, I think it's 3 walls, right?
It's 12 rooms or so, I believe.
Yeah, but I mean that.
Yes.
Yeah. To get that done before safety.
Yeah, that's.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay,
so Megan has.
yes, Megan.
You're talking about the third grade wing, and I was in a second grade classroom today. Now I can't remember the windows, but do they open on the second grade wing? Or are we eventually?
I think we did, I think they do.
Yeah, it's just a third.
So it was a third grade wing, that's why it was a project just for the third grade wing.
I
Go
can't
ahead.
remember.
I don't know the name, well, there's a few over there that might have the same issue. Like, I don't know if the teachers that I knew were there are still in those rooms, I can't reference. But when you go down that hallway on the right,
Okay.
on the opposite side of the gym, those might have the same issue, right? Because they're bordering
The parking lot there.
exactly.
I feel like the windows open though.
Sorry, so our-
Yeah, I think that the windows do
I feel
open
like those
I know that they have doors, but I
I know
think
the
I've
ones
seen
on the other
windows
side
open on
too.
that side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bailey? Okay, the 2 boiler vacuum pumps had leaks. They've both been rebuilt and reinstalled.
Both.
That's an update today.
Okay.
No. The curbs and sidewalks, the one little section over by the garden area, we're gonna wait till the spring to remove that.
Wall
Woodlands,
pads for the gym.
the wall pads for the gym, they were more costly than anticipated. Mr. McCoy was looking into that. To purchase those. I don't know exactly where we are with that.
All right, so check budget. All right.
Woodlands, the volleyball sleeve installation is now complete.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Dr. Bailey, so, we seem to have like repetitive Legionella issues, and I'm wondering what's being done with the water.
And the hot water,
The hot water.
the hot water
Yes.
tank, we've been treating it.
Okay,
Every 2 months, we're gonna treat it just as a preventative maintenance measure.
Chlorine flush.
Chlorine flush of the hot water system has no effect on any of the drinking water or the bottle filling stations. But preventatively, we had out of question, we had to go, the bottle fillers turned
Yeah.
off, and then we had water cooler water. But now that we know that by treating this, we believe we have it under control. We're gonna just maintain it every 2 months. We're just gonna flush the system to prevent any scale buildup in the hot water system, in the hot water tank.
Okay, since you mentioned bottle filling, that was on my list for later. I think I've asked this before, even though we don't see the green light and the red light, are the filters in those filling stations changed on a regular basis?
Correct, yeah, they
Like
do
you
have-
guys have some sort of,
Yeah, they do have the lighting on there, actually. They give a warning light. It's green, yellow, and red. Most of them should have it.
Okay, the ones I
But
see.
They are,
regularly do not.
they are changed regularly.
Okay.
Let's see what else. So Woodlands, the volleyball sleeve installation is now complete. The threshold on the gym. One of them was postponed because there was a center post that was rusted into the building that they couldn't remove. There had to be a coordination between the gym floor contractor and the locksmith. They came out last week, and that project is now complete. They put the new threshold in and the new door post. And let's see, we've installed some additional base stations on the elevated areas of the building. And the administration now has keys to restrict access to the elevators to keep the students out.
Do like one-to-one aides that have students that need elevators have access to those keys or have keys
Correct.
themselves?
Security, anybody who has a medical condition, it's been given a key. Obviously, somebody with an aide needs assistance going up and down the stairs, they have that. Okay. Yes.
Have you used the bathrooms in the gym area?
How do we what?
Have you used the bathrooms in the gym area?
I've been in there fairly recently, yeah. Yes, I know that those bathrooms could use some attention.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of the students sit on the sinks and stuff down in there in the common area. That's a problem, especially in the ladies' room. We fix several sinks a week at several different buildings.
Yeah, this can't be unique to our high school.
No,
right?
I've
So
worked
I'm
in the high school
wondering,
for
yeah.
many years, and it's
I'm
a
wondering
social
if
thing where
there's-
the ladies appear to sit on the sinks and
hang out.
do their makeup or whatever they do.
Is there, I wonder if there's some sort of sink model for this sort of thing where it's easier to not break them and the sinks can at least, or not just the sinks, but the bathroom.
Yeah, that
Can stay
we've been putting them with
presentable.
certain designs, the
Yeah.
brackets that go into the wall further. There's different mounting hardware. We've been trying to replace them with that as they break, fall out of the wall.
Yes.
Yes, James.
Unfortunately, that, those wall mounted brackets are just meant for holding the weight of a sink and maybe somebody leaning on it with their elbows. But to support the weight of an entire person sitting on the sink is never, ever going to be something that you'll resolve unless you build like a full counter in the space and eliminate the individual sinks.
Yeah.
It had to be a counter with like some sort of Corian or granite top or something of substantial weight that could support somebody, actually sitting on it. And, with legs or something to support it on the ground in front, because, a sink as it's cantilevered is not going to support for very long anybody sitting on it.
But these are our facility, I'm sorry, these are our facilities and we're putting money into the facilities. It's open to the public. We have public community members coming and using, the gym frequently, which is awesome. We have multiple teams coming in. So presentation's important. And we have public, like I said, using the gym, we're asking them to support our schools, support our budgets, our projects. And when things look completely run down, it's terrible. So, I mean, I don't want to just say, all kids do these things, so let's leave it. And I don't propose that anyone's saying that. I'm just wondering, how do we problem solve it looks really bad.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
second that because those are public facing and it's our really, especially.
Exactly. Now we have a nice gym. What I'd like to do is start implementing a plan where we do couple of bathrooms a year. Or maybe we do
Starting
the two
with
worst
those.
bathrooms. We say there's the most high profile ones. Let's get these taken care of.
But to Mr. Wade's point, I agree that's the solution, but actually I don't think it's the best solution because then you're promoting, let's hang out in the bathroom. So
Right.
there's gotta be some other
Or
way.
you could propose like
Like those
a
little
smaller
mini-
sink.
Yes.
A smaller sink. You're in there to wash your
sink.
hands. That's what you're there for.
That's what we're thinking alike. You don't wanna promote the hangout, let's hang out. in the
No, yeah, I'm not
shower.
saying promote a hangout, I'm just
If
thinking,
there is a mirror, make sure it's not near the sink, maybe, I don't know.
So what I would say is like fix and come up with a plan at the same time to keep it nice. How do we?
Yeah, I'd like to implement
the
a plan
break-in?
where we start to renovate some of these bathrooms. We do
Yeah.
a couple of the worst ones in each building, and we go around and make it equitable. And
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like cross-country meets where we had 24 schools here.
And
And
it's,
that's
you know,
the
looks
first
terrible.
thing
Yeah.
parents might see of our district, and that's just not a good look.
Yeah.
So if there's that extra money to do a fix, I'd like that in my top 5 things.
Okay.
You got a top 5?
Bus garage?
bus garage. Okay, we've repaired a roof leak over the antenna mount. I spoke to Frank the other day, and we had a couple of good rainstorms with winds, and it's been successful. Let's see, we talked about consider repaving an electric charging station as a long-term plan, but we're gonna need some funding for this.
How much funding you talking about?
Lots of funding. electric vehicles, depending on the scope of program. There was some talk about possibly doing a pilot program to
Was it, one bus was $1 million, right?
one bus, I don't know the exact numbers of that, because if you take into account, we have to change the electric coming down the road, it gets costly quick. I mean, possibly we start with one of the vans maybe,
Or a hybrid.
a hybrid vehicle, just to,
Yeah.
you have to start somewhere, but we don't have, the funding to start cutting the trees down, installing generators that are hundreds of thousands, and it does get costly quick.
Before you move on, going back to the potholes at Woodlands, I did see some pothole repair, but when I'm leaving Woodlands, this lot, and I'm driving out, there's still like a big hole on the right side of the road.
I saw that, there's actually 2 catch basins.
Okay.
It's part of the,
Those are catch basins.
Those are
These
catch
just-
basins,
Okay,
yeah.
they're very deep.
They are deep,
Okay.
and I saw them, I was like, okay, I thought that was a pothole myself.
You mean,
They're in competition with Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are catch basins, so
okay, I guess I'm surprised I've never noticed them.
unless you walk it, you might not even know.
Okay.
Let's see. Talking.
And we're, I think,
Phase 2.
Phase 2, priorities include ventilation, building envelopes, BCS priority 1 and 2 items, and ECP classrooms. Would require a bond proposition, and we should seek additional funding sources, and we are starting to get return on our seeking additional funding sources. Scope of project should take a bond vote history into account. Cost could be partially offset by year-end fund balances or reserves. Administration developing proposal pending EPC results. So we're moving slowly towards having our EPC results, and we'll get there, and we're gonna be asking for that big proposal. Results, ex officio board member poll of WMHS students, upgrade the track area, including replacing asphalt with rubberized surface is the most popular project. Fixing and upgrading the tennis courts is a secondary suggestion, so that was already in there.
The track and field electric, that is on our top of our list for Senator Stewart Cousins' money.
Good, good. All right, so that's all, yes.
So I don't have a big things list here, but where did the basketball courts fit in? You know, the courts down next to the mansion, I guess? Behind the parking lot?
Oh, down below?
I don't know what to call that area.
It's the, on the pathway below the mansion, those the
The
courts
old-
have
the
that have
outdoor
been
courts,
pretty
right.
much abandoned.
Yeah, that's like priority.
So 10, you said, that's fine, but so the reason why I'm asking is because I always think about that road and ever widening that road, but those courts are still there. Do you ever plan on like ripping those up? Is there any plan for that? Like ripping them up, fixing them?
I don't remember there being
seen that
anything in the BCS.
I don't remember reading about that. in
I don't
the
think,
files.
I don't think we asked for it. Okay.
Because I always fantasize that that road could be widened when you come up and down
The
the road.
sidewalk between
The drive,
the asphalt sidewalk.
no, the
between
road?
two buildings?
Oh, that's just a sidewalk that
It's
goes in
not-
between, that's not really a roadway.
It's not a sidewalk? I'm talking about the road to drive kids to school. That's not a roadway. You guys, not you guys, but the employees may use it for like the golf, the pagodas.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the actual road
Okay.
that people drive up and down every day, the buses drive up and down it. What?
So not near the basketball courts that you're talking
The
about.
basketball courts are
Yeah,
there.
and that is actually down, it's
Yeah.
like when you come out where the potholes are.
Yes.
But that's
Well, I don't know
like
what the
way
potholes
up, it's change in elevation, it's like, there's some woods there. It's close, but it's not that close.
It's not that close. Okay,
No.
so it doesn't affect if you were to widen that road ever?
No, not at all. There's plenty
Okay.
of woods and
So do we just leave that there? Is that what you guys are saying? Just,
For now.
okay.
Yes,
all right.
we got
More fish
bigger
to fry.
fish to fry.
No problem. I just was curious about what happens with that.
We're down from our 89 million and now we're at 82.
Oh, right.
We're trying to make that number smaller and work from priority 1 and 2 down. Okay,
That's priority 10, got it.
all right, so other concerns, Katie?
Hi, yeah. No, I had one other thing about the phase 2. I thought when Miss Raymond showed us her spreadsheet that there were some items put in under phase 2, but
Yes,
Yes.
so those items that, so in the 5-year facility update plan that BBS did, there were some items in there that they identified as phase 2. So I just went ahead and put those into a phase 2 column
Right.
for the future.
Wait, go to the right, please.
We
Right,
We
Stop
asked them
there,
to,
stop.
we asked them to
Go-
put
go
together
to
a
the
list
right
of
one.
priority 1 and
But
2
then we
items.
lose the column.
But she wants to see phase
She wants to
two.
see
Right
phase
there.
2
No,
is the
one
column
more.
to the far right.
Go.
One more.
Right.
There, stop.
But now we lose the where it
Yeah,
is,
that
guys.
I don't really think that matters.
Okay.
Because
Is this what
it
you
doesn't
were-
identify what
Yep.
it is.
1.2 million.
Is this what you were talking about, Ms. McGee?
So the column that says, yeah,
Right,
phase,
so there were things when BBS and BBS, I don't want to speak for you, but when they, in their 5-year facility plan, there were some things in the note that they identified could be in phase 2, so I just stuck it in the phase 2 column.
And I think this was part of, I did a preliminary, stab at it in which I added some classrooms to Lee Up Jackson. And I took the high priority items and added that in and a couple of other items and came up with an $18 million bond at the time. But that's been so long now. Okay.
Right.
So the administration is going to come up with a formal proposal.
Really, Ms.
You've given
McGee,
them
that
what our
phase 2
wish list
column
is.
is just the start of what a phase 2 would look like.
okay, so it was like, nothing's set in stone yet with your,
No. Those are just suggestions right now.
So phase 2 should end up being quite a bit larger than that.
Yes.
got it.
And really, and I've been telling this to Trustee Warner that Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso and I have held off on proposing a phase 2 or bringing it to the committee or to the board until we know exactly what is in the EPC. Once that is done and voted on and is a done deal, then we can start working on phase 2.
So let's look at February.
Yep.
Well, after.
So,
Yes.
if I may, and David, you mentioned other concerns. This was just either you or maybe Ms. Raymond could look, maybe you have the answer, but maybe you have to look into it. I was in a group, I think it's the Reminiscing Hartsdale something, Facebook. There's a lot of alum who were in the mansion for kindergarten. And anyway, somebody wanted to know, what did the district do with the money when they sold land in the 1980s? Where did that money go to? And this was in the context of, refurbishing the mansion. And I guess why
So
the
in the 1980s, before my time, I remember them getting into terrible trouble with, I think there might have been a possibility of, so there are 2 different possibilities. Either it's the Stone Oaks land swap. I think that's the one.
1980s, yeah.
And the question was, are there irregularities to what was, are we doing what was in the deed? And was that really okay? And I think we got slapped on the wrist but they didn't take the Warburg campus away from us. We're still here, and Stone Oaks got built. And that's, I know that there was a small farm there, and that Mrs. Warburg, when the mansion got too big for her, and she was an old lady, and the kids all grew up and moved away, that she moved to that farm and was there for a while, and then she, deeded most of the property with the exception of that area, while she was alive, and then she passed on. And then sometime later, there was a fire and the farm burnt down. And then sometime after that, the Stone Oaks deal was made, and we got in trouble and we got through it. And that's as much as I know. And we could do more research if we want to find out more details.
Let's talk about how.
Are you saying there was never land that was sold where we got money? Like that was the comment.
That's I don't know how much money we got, and I don't know what we spent it on. So you want to find out how much? Okay. So are there records in the mansion? We still have a mansion full of records. So
Well,
1980s.
Ms. McGee, help me understand. If that's over 50 years ago, how will that help us with our planning for phase 2?
I don't know. I don't know why that was asked in particular, other than, like, to me, I thought, well, yeah, whatever money we got from that went somewhere. It's not here anymore. But I think in the context of when people are going to be discussing what's priority and how it came up with the last bond, you know, well, how the district get itself in this mess that they're asking us for all this money or X, Y, or Z. I just think it is relevant to know, have the facts straight, I guess is what I'm saying. And so
Okay.
if we had money, you know, whatever the answer was, you know, what happened to it. Also, was High Point ever part of the Warburg property or no?
Well, not our part of the Warburg property. It was some other part of the Warburg property. The Warburg property used to be 500 acres. It used to go all the way to Central Avenue. And they sold off parts of it that had uses as a business. I think if you go over by Best Buy, there might still be a couple of gate stones sitting there, showing that used to be the entrance, one of the entrances to the Warburg mansion, to the Warburg estate. And so then they sold off parts of it, and it got smaller, and then what was left was you know, when Frida Warburg was at the point that she knew she was approaching the end of her life, is what she gave away, and then she made the choice: do we give it to the Hartsdale School District, or do we give it to the more diverse school district? And she thought the need was greater in the more diverse school district, and that got us the high school and the Warburg property.
Okay.
That's what I know about that.
Greenburgh 7.
Yeah.
First I'm hearing about the swap and the slap on the wrist, so thanks.
Sure.
Maybe to find that in writing or to foil or something, let me know.
Yes, if I knew the name of the document, I would provide it. I've seen some records from there's a book called The Warburgs, which talks about the entire Warburg family, and it has a few paragraphs here and there on the Warburg estate. There are old maps that I pulled up from the county, go down to White Plains and look there. And then there are records in the mansion, and you have access to those.
Speaking of in the mansion, does anybody check in the mansion, go in, how is it maintained? We know there was water in there. Does anybody, I think it was this meeting several months ago. I don't even know if you were here yet, Mr. Pugliese, but people were asking if we had water in the mansion. Is it cleaned out? Is there ventilation in there? Since there was water, moisture. That's all.
Yeah, we have workers, they're doing the brickwork now, so pretty much every morning, somebody goes through the building, opens up the doors.
Okay.
Somebody's in there pretty much daily.
Other matters? Oh, yes. Oh, go ahead.
I want to bring up something that is a facility related thing that maybe not a phase 2, but it's coming as a priority. We're getting more visitors onto the campus. We've had cross-country meet.
Mm-hmm.
We have signage that goes back to 1962. And everybody knows those signs need to be updated. We have too many people getting lost, people driving around. We've had visiting teachers and people who haven't even been able to find a place. So on this campus, we've got to think about doing the signage. I brought this up for quite a few years. And just recently, when they had this thing, we had to direct people how to get out. Not everybody had their GPS going. Do we need better signage? People can't even, when you're going to have the community coming into meeting, a lot of these people, it's very dark at night, the signs are unlit, and it's not safe. So we need better signage. We can't have people trying to get home from a 9 o'clock meeting and they think they got to go down to the football field to get out. So we really got to start paying attention. And it may not be a priority now, but God forbid if something else happens. So I think we need to really revisit it.
That should be an easy fix.
That's a, can you do it a little at a time inside your budget?
Yeah.
As opposed to let's launch a giant signage project, right? Other concerns? Yes.
Okay, so speaking of lighting at night, it's been big improvement since last year. Noticed two things lately. The Y, when you're on the Woodlands High School campus, you're coming up to the school building, and the Y intersection where
Before
you
going
go
to
to
the
the
back
right
of
to
the
the
truck?
kitchen or up here to the drive, there's a light there. It's been out for over a year. I would
Street
like to
light
see
out.
if we could put that street light
Yeah,
to functional status.
yep, I inquired about that, when I first got here. There's, the electric on the one side, it runs through the pond for one reason or another.
Who did that?
I guess that happened a few years ago,
In the eighties, they got a slap on the wrist.
Okay.
so that's why that one's disconnected. I believe somebody hit one a few years back, 3-4 years, I'm told.
Okay.
I know that we have a pretty good lighting on the other side as you approach the high school building. We could probably tap off of that side and run down to the corner there.
Okay.
Could you put a solar light?
I was just, I feel like that came.
You know, solar,
In the middle of winter is not that great.
it's not that great. I mean, it might help for a little bit, but that's the whole side of the building is steep. There's, with the canopy there, I don't think it's gonna be
But-
too,
Interesting is that so many people use that road to get to the high school.
yeah.
It's a very bad intersection.
And people
And
come
it's
out,
really,
you're not always expecting
Yeah.
someone to
Because I
come.
was
I brought that up when we
one-way,
can
and it's not a
run the
one-way.
tap off of that other line and bring it down at least to the
Right.
corner to provide some, the lighting at least before the pond there.
Okay.
And then similarly at Jackson the other night, there was the one. How do I describe it? When you're at the building coming out in front of the parking lot, if you hold out your left hand, kind of right there on the left side of the parking lot. There is one lit nearby, but the one that's always, it's one of those new ones that have the double prong thing, that's not working.
Correct. And I inquired about that also.
Okay.
They fixed the light, they put it up and it never worked.
Are you kidding me? Never worked.
This is what I'm told.
A light that never worked. Okay.
Okay, that's
So what's the solution?
The
for that?
solution, the easiest solution is probably the tap off of the one that's when you first come up where the dip is, tap off of that one straight down and.
Because there's a light that's closer over in the staff area.
But it's on the other side of the parking lot. We would have to
Okay.
dig that up.
The parking lot up.
Right.
It's probably easier if we just head down the grass, you know, that's
The
another.
other thing, when you're speaking about lights, that has come up a couple times in administrator meetings. The administrators would like us to, and we are looking into, electronic sign boards in front of the school.
I love that.
Right.
And that would help.
The marquee,
That's-
so we are
that's
looking into that. It's not as easy as it, to say, because think about Highview. Where would we put it? Because we don't own that
property.
field and that so
Yeah,
how
we
would we
do
get
have
the
a sign
electric
down
down
there.
there?
Yes, we have a sign.
You know, how would we get the electric out
Yeah,
here too? I mean,
I'd be
what's their
interested
phase?
in to have an estimate too on the
Yeah.
electrical costs. I mean,
Yeah. The,
sorry, carbon footprint, all of this.
Stone Oak, do I have that right? Stone Oak?
Yes,
Stone
Stone
Oak.
Oak.
They won't let us put anything at the end there on their property, LaFell wouldn't either, so where would we put it for the high school? Would
In the-
we just put where the marquee is now?
No. On the entrance to the school has something, don't they? There? Am I imagining?
Across from the bus garage would probably be the
Yeah.
Right.
easiest
No,
solution.
I'm sorry, all the way out, that's outside of Stone Oaks.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing there?
I don't think so.
You're
There's a
talking about
sign
the
there,
corner
yes,
of
there is
West
something
Hill
there.
Avenue. There's
There
a
is
sign
something.
there.
There is
There's
something.
a tiny logo for the.
There's a
license
tiny
plate
small
now.
sign.
They were asked if we could put an electric, and they said no, and LaFell said no. For the
But
other
that
side.
But
sign that's
whose
there.
property is it?
Not ours.
Not ours anymore.
it used to be.
Not ours
like that.
anymore. Uh-uh.
Maybe before we got slapped on.
But it's
the-
our road.
Oh,
It's our
yeah,
road, yeah.
It's our road at that point.
Yep.
So I want to clarify. It's
Yeah,
our road
it's
at
our
that
road.
point.
So why can't we?
But
put-
neither side of the road is our property.
Right.
But it's our road.
We could,
And it's our fire hydrant.
Right.
Just.
is it our,
Yes,
is it our
I
sidewalk?
understand.
Is it our
Just say
sidewalk?
what
So we have to pay for that fire
Is it our
hydrant.
road?
road.
Is it our sidewalk?
I believe so, yes.
So we couldn't put on, I mean, we're getting the cost, but like more of an aerial thing too, because don't we have the flagpoles up there with the
Yeah.
Banner.
the banners? So
I thought more of like the Batman thing in the air.
All right.
Just have drones that constantly.
Just so the community,
So
knows.
They
we're
just
looking,
look down.
we're looking
we
into that.
sold them the property and they won't allow us to put, that's
I
interesting.
have two other.
I think Julia Long has her hand up. This one, Julie?
He's flashing.
Just a question, if it's our road, is there any chance that we have an easement? It might be worth looking into.
That could be how we have the sign there. That's a good question. Did he hear you? Did you hear her? Okay.
Let's look into an easement.
That could be how that little sign is there, maybe. Good question.
Okay,
He's gonna look into it.
two other little questions I have.
What is he looking to? What is she?
An easement.
An easement.
Off of the road.
Because that's our road.
Easel, okay.
No, no, easement.
And that could be the little sign that's
Yep.
there, that
Yep.
space
Yep.
might be ours.
We currently have no sports happening at the football field. As wet weather and snow comes along, are we gonna close the gate so that cars don't go down there just for fun? I know we have people who, I believe, pay
Walking,
us
yeah,
to
but
use.
when the
But I know,
weather
but I'm talking
comes,
about,
yeah,
I
when it
believe we
starts
have
to get dangerous,
weekend
yeah.
events now where people pay us. So I believe there has to be open for the, I forget if it's Saturday or Sunday when they come. But just as far as maintaining the road
Yeah,
in
I-
slushy weather,
I-
there's no reason for the gate to be open right now. as far
Correct,
as
and
I know, so.
especially if, you know, you have to salt it
You're
down to
gonna close-
nothing.
You're gonna close the
Yeah,
gate?
we're gonna close the gate when it
Okay.
starts to snow.
Before you move
How
on,
how are they
One more
gonna get
thing.
back and
Before
forth
you
to
move on.
Jackson? The security goes down that path to go get to Jackson.
But they can open the
But
gate.
they would probably
They
have the
have to
keys and they would
open it.
open the gate and close it when they're
I
done.
mean, I know
but
they
I-
have the weekend.
but I did notice, there was someone who reported a tree was down, and I think you.
Yeah, we took care of that right
Yeah,
away.
so what,
took care of
is that
it.
just randomly they're falling?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, always, yes.
Okay, all right.
It's either too wet.
I think the
it's very
safety, I
windy.
think, you know, I
Yeah,
hate for.
yeah, there's trees, there was one at Highview about a month or so ago, just right before the vans on the back of the building where they come through the upper driveway that leads out.
Yeah, there's no leaning indication or anything?
No.
Okay.
The ones that we've seen,
They just.
I just-
I've been trying to be proactive and cut down some of the ones that looked like there would be a problem, but this
I
one,
understand.
this one, it would just look like the wind came and snapped it about 50 feet up,
No, it's,
but it was big enough to block the roadway.
yeah.
So do we have our landscapers before cross-country season? Do our landscapers go through and just make sure it's all,
The landscapers, no, that's our people, they go through, we spread the wood chips around, we
so we do a check on the health of the trees?
oh,
and
absolutely, yeah,
everything on
we look and we cut the little brush back, and if we see anything out of, it looks dangerous, we get the chainsaw out there and the backhoe.
Okay.
Push them out of the way.
My last question was, I saw we have the delivery of the air.
Half of them came.
Half, that's only half.
About
Wow.
90% now.
Oh, now 90%,
Yeah.
yeah, they couldn't fit them all on the same truck.
Yeah.
So,
Air
the air
purifiers.
purifiers. So I know you'd mentioned, somebody had mentioned recently that you were also gonna look at the electrical load before
Well,
they were
that's-
put in use. So how are we on, what's the status
A
on?
lot of them, they're not compressors so much like an air conditioner, it's more like a fan, so in most of the spaces, the offices, we should be in good shape.
Okay. I know at least there's probably a.
Yeah,
a
if there were,
handful that we need to
like
get into certain
dehumidifiers,
rooms
it would be
ASAP.
a much bigger problem, but
Okay.
these are smaller
And they're not,
wattage.
I don't know if you've noticed, like, in central office, the air purifiers, they're the big square, these are little,
Mhm.
littler.
Mhm.
So,
Okay,
Oh, good.
But yeah, they're
Any
almost all
other
here.
my
concerns?
list is done.
Do we have wait, anyone online? Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Jim.
Hey, thank you, everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
That's right. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, everybody.
Dr. Iverson?